we go. Welcome to the show. This conversation could literally, I say this every time, but when I say that intention, I really mean it, that these conversations could literally be the conversations that could give you a nugget that is the thing that catalyzes your life into an area that you don't even see as possible right at the moment, right? And so this is why I want to keep having these. And I would encourage you to I'm going to be doing some things here in the very near future that will allow you to know like my month schedule of what I'm doing so that you can put it on your calendar of when you want to be here because you just get a whole different vibe when you're watching it live and you get the opportunity to ask questions while I'm here. And of course, you got questions, you can always ask them below and I'll be happy to answer them and then give other people the opportunity to expand on what it is that's there for you. Because one of the things that's amazing about this whole social media thing, right, is that it provides us an opportunity. So, like each and every one of you watching this right now is experiencing a different training, right? And you're perceiving it based on who you are, and our lives are a reflection of ourselves. And so, you asking questions, somebody might not even have thought of that. And so, the very thing of you asking the question provides an opportunity or breakthrough for somebody else that might not have had that awareness to see the question that you asked. So asking questions is massively important, not only for yourself, but what it does for the community and other people that watch this content. So how self-hatred can become your greatest opportunity is what this conversation is all about. Every single one of us, it doesn't matter what level, has the opportunity to move through this, wherever you're at in that journey. And I would like to say that where I'm at this point in my life, that saying no sound, I've had a couple different people say that, and when I posted it, it seems to be fine. So I don't know what's going on with that. So when so around self-hatred, when the reason that I want to really have this conversation is because there's components of us that we not understanding how things get created within our shadow and with our inner world, that there are parts of us that we don't want to embrace. There's parts of us that literally we want to reject. And what happens with this is that this is an opportunity for you to look at what created this relationship with this part of you. Because as long as we have a part of us that we don't want to be a part of us, we are going to believe that somebody else will not be accepting to that part as well. And this gets to be this gets to be the opportunity for us. So asking the question, what part of you do you wish did not exist? Right? And getting real about this. See, the first thing that's going to come up is our ego is going to go, whoa, whoa, wait, we're not exposing anything here. And I'm not asking you to put this in the chat, although if you're courageous enough and brave enough and vulnerable enough, that would be awesome, just because it empowers everybody else. See, our greatest asset is our ability to be vulnerable, and this is where we really get to experience our power. And in doing that, guess what that does? It sets the tone for other people to give permission, because as soon as somebody does it, everybody's like, well, man, they did it, I can do this as well, right? So looking at what part of you what part of you wish didn't exist? Like, what memory did you experience that you wish didn't exist? What decisions have you made that you wished you hadn't made? What regrets do you have in your life? All these parts of you are parts that contribute to this thing called, we'll call it self-hatred, right? And really looking at, because like, how much do you give yourself grace when you have something turn out differently than what you had hoped it would turn out? Now, this is really, really important. So there's a movie that I seen a while back, and it was a great movie. It's one of those movies that just really impact you in a way, like you can viscerally experience what's going on in the movie, and it's like, oh my gosh. And so this was about a guy teaching a protege, a younger kid, how to run the 4-minute mile. And this kid had major attitude, and this guy used to stand outside of the track practice and watch. And this guy was like a washed up old coach, and he was a drunk and just really in a place in his life where he was seeking to have purpose again. And he saw this kid that had incredible talent, but his attitude was just out of control, to the point of one day this guy's watching the track team practice and stuff like that, and the track coach kicked the kid off the team. right? And so this washed up coach went and looked this kid up and eventually convinced him to let him train him so that he could run the 4 minute mile. Of course, the kid had all kinds of attitudes, all kinds of things, but between the two of them, they ended up making, moving towards this intention that he wanted to run the 4 minute mile. And he runs this kid through a regiment that's just like, oh my gosh, it was painful watching. Like, I've watched Spartan races and, Ironmans and stuff like that. And God bless those people. I got a good buddy of mine that does, I don't know how many he's done, like 6 full Ironmans. And it's not my jam, right? I got other things that I get excited about. But I have utmost respect for people that do it. But anyway, so he's doing this and whoops, he's doing this and running him through this regimen. And I'm like, man, he's like pushing this kid hard. Well, then he ends up breaking the mile into quadrants. And this kid's running the first quadrant after he had done all this training, kind of like what we've seen in Karate Kid, like wax on or paint on, paint off, wax on, wax off. And then he runs him through testing, right? So he runs this kid through the first quadrant, and this kid hits the asphalt, just face plants, blam. And he's just screaming there in a fetal position, laying on his side and going, oh my gosh, the pain. I cannot deal with this pain. This pain is so intense. This pain's so intense, I can't do it anymore. And the coach walked up to him and said something that was like, that's it. That's the secret to everything. This is it. Coach looked down at him and he goes, it is fear of the pain that is stopping you. It's fear of the pain that is stopping you. And see, this is the magic. I mean, friends, what I'm giving you here is like major master level training here. And this isn't about me, but it's just letting you have the opportunity of really recognizing we don't value what's free, right? And I'm doing this so that I can start building relationships with people, because there's some amazing projects and things like that I'm creating here in the very near future that I would like some people to be a part of. But see, this is what's important. You are the author of the pain. You are the author of the pain in your life. Now, we have had incidences in our lives where we were victimized, for sure, without a doubt. And I've had a long journey of going through that stuff, and it's our opportunity for us to have healing and moving through these wounds. But see, what we do is we end up doing the very thing to those wounds that created the victimization in the first place, right? We don't want that part of us. And see, the wound got initiated because there was something within inside of ourselves that got separated from our wholeness, right? Like, humiliation is a great way for us to recognize, like, when were you humiliated, right? Like, I read my book. By the way, this is my book, okay? The Map to Your Fullest Potential. You can get it on Amazon right now for, I think it's $4.97. It's not going to be that price for very much longer. So if you want to get a copy of it, this is my life's work, and I would encourage you to go check it out. It's a good book. But anyway, the part of us that was victimized, like humiliated, whatever, abused, molested, beaten up, rejected, abandoned, whatever that is, we end up becoming the perpetrator by how we treat that part of us, right? We do almost the same thing to that wound is what caused the wound in the first place. But see, what happens is we see how our environment at that time deals with how that situation is, whether we share it or not. But then out of that, we end up going, well, this is how you're supposed to deal with it, because as a child, we don't have the cognitive ability to process things in a way that we do as an adult. And most adults don't really learn how to deal with their emotions or their trauma or their wounds or anything like that as an adult either. So here's this child with these wounds going, what do I do with these things, right? And not understanding that they have agency where they get to create the narrative around whatever experience they have. Because who is it that determines the value of every single experience that you have in your life? Who is it that gets to determine the value of every single experience you have in your life? You do, right? Like, you can walk outside and it can be pouring rain. Like, all right, awesome, man. We're going to go out and jump in the puddles and we're going to have some fun and everything's going to be clean and it's going to smell great and all that stuff. Or you can walk out and just go, crap, it's freaking raining. I'm going to get all wet. But see, a child won't do that very often. A child sees opportunity in lots of different things, right? So I want to really give you some opportunity here, create some possibilities for you in looking at what parts of you do you wish didn't exist, right? Now, I've dealt with just about every type of addiction there is within myself, except for eating. I have not, eating has been the only thing that I haven't really struggled with. Like it's been a real struggle for me. However, I went the other way and got into bodybuilding and martial arts and all these other things. Really got looked at my body in a way that it became an asset just because of all the um, stuff that happened to me as a child, like the molestation and stuff like that. I figured out, wow, cool, my body's an asset. And that created lots of things that I got to heal through, right? But I've dealt with drug addiction, alcoholism, porn addiction. I mean, I've dealt with lots of different types of addictions, and we are all addicted. And let me be very clear about that because we get addicted. But when we hear that word addiction, what we do is we go into our history and go, okay, cool. What does it mean to be an addict? And it's like, oh, I'm not an addict. We're all addicted. We all have addictions to thought patterns, to emotional to our emotions, to how we do strategies. We all have addictions, right? And the sooner that you get real about this is it creates opportunity for you to create different possibilities, right? So looking at what is it, the areas of your life that you wish didn't exist, because right there is an addiction in a pattern that you end up getting a certain hormonal cocktail out of that neurological strategy that creates a certain effect out of that, right? And then what happens is we become so familiar with it that we don't even recognize that it is keeping us in a lower vibration so that we're not able to experience the life that we were designed to experience, right? This is like um I mean, the statistics are everywhere on this, like lottery winners, right? Lottery winners file bankruptcy within 5 years. 85% of lottery winners file bankruptcy within 5 years of winning the lottery. Why? Because it blows out their understanding of who they are. Like, oh my gosh, I don't deserve all this. I got to get this away from me as soon as possible. Because as soon as something that significant happens in our life, now most people don't recognize this because they don't understand how they're entangled in every area of their lives. Like, you only have in your life what you agree to. Let me repeat that. You only have in your life what you agree to, right? We will only create what we agree to, right? So it's really looking at what do you agree to? I heard that the first 5 years of learning are the most. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 75% of what we know in our lifetime was by the age of 5 because it's an imprint year, right? And so, see, and I'm so glad somebody asked that question because the question was, I heard that the first 5 years of learning are the most important. Is that true? I, I wouldn't say, I would say the most impactful. Right now, I don't know what you mean by important, and we could expand on that, but it's the most impactful. And that's why I say 75% of what we know is by the age of 5 is because this is our imprint years, right? We don't have a conscious mind to filter anything of whether this is healthy or unhealthy or anything like that. So the unconscious takes subconscious takes everything personally, right? So the child believes that the whole environment is about the child, right? So if the parents divorce, there's some belief within that child feeling like I caused this, right? Or like for me, some of the things that I experienced as a child, like being molested, one of them was, and then this could open up a whole other conversation as well, but me looking at that and feeling that this is the only type of attention I get, like this is what a plus b equals c, right? Like we figure out like cause and effect. Like a child gets put into his bedroom, right? And the parents are separating the child, teaching the child how to be on their own, put them in a separate bedroom, and then the child's freaking out like, oh my gosh, this is different, right? But then the child gets sick and all of a sudden the parents are showing up more, right? Well, the child associates going, okay, cool, sick equals love, right? And then they end up having a pattern throughout their whole lives of now again, this is totally subconscious and they're not even aware. This is shadow stuff that people aren't even aware of what they're doing, that they made the choice that being sick equals love for me. Like you have friends and people in your life that seem to get sick a lot more than other people because they're living out a program that they decided would give them what they wanted, right? And we're in a lot slower brain frequency. So at the age from 0 to 2, we're in the delta brain frequency. I'd encourage you to look this up. This is why meditation and journal is so important. And then from 2 to about 6, we're in the theta brain frequency. So it's looking at this and recognizing that we got to get past the critical faculty that's in our mind that keeps us from receiving new information and changing the narratives of what is actually happening. Or like, I remember one of the decisions I made as a child, like I hated money. And because of the work that I've done and the journaling and the stuff that I teach and all the stuff I've exposed myself to, like I started out in this path as like an idiot, right? Like I was just like, give me more information, teach me something. Like I just knew the way that I was living my life was going to cause myself pain. And because it's causing me pain, it's going to cause other people pain. And that's what got me on this journey, because I just radically had to change a lot of what it is that I'm accessing. So I remember doing this money assessment, and I remember coming up with, first of all, is money was more important to me, which is pretty common thing that I deal with my clients. I mean, I work with many multimillionaires as clients, and they this I made the decision. I've worked with clients that made the decision that money's more important than me, because the child can see the parent working their butts off all the time. See, the child will take that internally, right? And this is where the self-hatred comes up. Like, my dad loved money more than me, but they didn't understand that the dad had narratives believing that that's what he has to do in order to be a good father, right? And then I remember making the decision I hated money, because I used to watch my parents argue and fight like crazy fighting. I thought money was the cause of that. And I remember after doing work and digging into this, that I made the choice of like, money is like creates absolute chaos and pain. So until we get in touch with these decisions that we have made as a child, we are going to run these patterns. So look at your lives and your patterns of like, what is it that you want to create, and what seems to be getting in the way of what it is that you want to create. But see, the first thing that comes up is our ego goes, hey, wait a minute. Whoa, I'm not very good at this thing. In fact, I flat out suck at admitting that I might have made a decision that is not correct. And so we have to look at this stuff humbly, right? And give ourselves grace and looking at this stuff, and just know that the decisions you made at the different points in your life were made with the information that you had at that time, just like anybody else that has been part of raising us. In fact, if you haven't joined the Potential Zone group, I would really recommend that you do that, because I'm sharing lots of content in there. And again, I'm in the process of creating different systems and opportunities for people to really step into their fullest potential. Like right now, I'm doing the Mastering Potential master group, and it's amazing what's going on in there. So I'd encourage you to become a part of that group. And but giving yourself permission to really look at what is it that you want to create, and then what is it that you have to become in order to create that, right? Because you not knowing what's really going on or what it is that you're really accessing is going to impact your ability to create. But see, the very thing that we don't like looking at, we don't like looking at it because somewhere along the lines, it got humiliated. That part of us got humiliated. And I mean, case in point, like I wanted to, with my website, I used to, I've had so many websites and stuff like that. But when I was first doing a website, I set out an intention of like, okay, I'm going to do a blog post every day for 90 days. And I was actually able to get my website in the top 100,000 websites in the world. It's big freaking deal for me. I was really, really happy about it. But going through that process, I really started running into major resistance. So anything that you have resistance in your life, there's a reason that is there. The resistance is usually part of the ego to protect us from where we've been wounded, right? So just pay attention to that. Like what's coming up for me? Like where is this part of me really wanting to communicate? Because everything that we do serves us. Everything. That's a whole other conversation in itself as well. But the resistance is there to serve you. And if we want to move through this and move through the threshold of what's holding us back, then we have to look at, how does this serve me? Right. And there might be a part of you like, well, you remember one time when you were a kid and you had a dream and you went and shared that dream with somebody and everybody laughed at you and you were humiliated. So you went, I'm not ever going to do that again. Going after your dreams is a bad thing. right? Like that might be a decision that you made, so that you start going into this process of, so this is, again, I don't ever want to experience that again. So we push that away. The resistance is the anchors, right? So what you resist will persist, right? But also what determines how fast you accelerate through something is your resistance to it. So it's learning how to embrace every part of you and learn how to love the parts of you that you wish weren't there, because that's the thing that we're going to project onto other people. And if we are questioning anything, then we're not stepping into our truth, right? Like, how do you know what your truth is? How do you know when you're in your agency? How do you know that you can congruently seek and or speak and communicate and express in a way that's not going to be wobbled by how it's received with somebody else? How do you know that? Right? And this is why you want to look at these things, because it's your relationship with these different aspects of you that determine how you're going to receive information from other people, right? Like, I mean, that is so important. Like being offended, you being offended is one of your greatest assets, because you being offended is that there's something inside of you that is being triggered by somebody on the outside of you, right? Like, and so think of it this way. If I sat there and I said, you know what? Of course, I don't know, maybe I can't see all of you, but just think about this. If I sat there and went, you know what? I don't know if you know this, but you're kind of a interesting color of blue. Like you got this blue haze on your face, right? You would, or green, whatever, right? And you'd be like, this dude's off his rocker, right? Like I could sit here and do, well, I could probably eventually convince you in some ways, but that's beyond the subject of this conversation, is that it's not going to offend you because it's not it's not in your internal world, right? But I said, that hairdo, I don't know, right? Or someone called me bald. Like I used to get super offended when somebody called me bald. Oh, nice haircut, dude. Like, oh man, you like, I mean, I've been shaving my head for over 30 years, right? Like I was doing it long before it was in vogue. In fact, I had people think I was skinheads, right? But the shame was because of my narrative of how I saw bald people. And then because I got a 12-inch scar down the back of my neck that has to do with, there's a reflection of when I almost took my sister in my own life, right? So I had to deal with the shame of what I experienced within that, right? So what areas of your life do you have shame in? What areas of your life are you humiliated? What areas of your life causes you anxiety, right? And the more that you are aware of these, then the more you have data so that you can come up with strategies so that you can move through these things, so that you're not, so that life doesn't own you, right? Like that's the most important thing. Create a life and design a life where you're not impacted by what everybody else thinks of you. And I just want to touch on this because this is one thing I am super passionate about. There's this narrative like, don't give a fuck what anybody thinks of you. Okay, I get that right now. And I'm saying that word very intentionally because one of the really high influential people that says it speaks exactly that way. And so for me, it's not about not caring what people think about you, because I care what people think about me, but it's not in a narcissistic way or a self-centered way. I care about what people think of me because it's a reflection of them, right? Like how they see me is a reflection of them. And so that gives me information on how they see life, right? And I get it. It's not me that they're come up with all these judgments. It's not me. It's about what they are projecting onto me, right? And I understand that. So I'm wanting to come at this from a different vantage point and empowering people to really see what's going on when somebody offends you so that you can master that and really step in. Because if you're saying like some of the people that say this, okay, cool, let's just take away all your followers and see how that impacts you, right? It's not congruent with what it is that they teach. And so I want to give a more aware, more expanded, more potential aspect on what that really means. So this is where self-hatred can become your greatest opportunity, because it will literally set you free, right? And this is what I do with my one-on-one clients. I mean, my clients they 10x their lives in like every area of their life, right? And my students, I mean, they 10x. 10x is a massive understatement. Like, how do you give value to something where you're not able to communicate a certain thing and not able to step into your power. And then all of a sudden you're able to own who you are and you create a career that is aligned and congruent with who you are rather than reacting to life all the time. I mean, how do you quantify that, right? Or incredible relationships with your significant other, or being able to actually find out what your purpose really is in life and being aligned with that. Because anytime you're out of congruency with who you are, you're giving away your power, right? So that's where, again, looking at these parts of you that you hate, because it is in the parts that you hate that you will set up programs that will compromise who you truly are, right? And so you want to understand who you really are, what your value really is, and making the difference, because a life of fulfillment is making a difference in other people's lives, right? Like, that's been my journey, and taking all the pain and turning into purpose to impact people's lives, right? Like, your greatest challenges are somebody else's inspiration, right? So looking at these components of you, what part of you do you wish never happened? What part of you do you wish didn't exist? Right? And really looking at what is the reason that you have created this narrative around that. And I get trauma, stuff like that. That stuff needs to be released because it's trapped emotion within who you are. And if you are experiencing that, there's some things that I can do to greatly support that. But it's understanding that not looking at it is just going to exasperate it. The number one reason, the number one cause for dis-ease is trapped emotion. It's emotion, right? So your body is giving you feedback all the time of what it wants to release so that it can expand into a bigger, greater, more potential version of who it is. It's just you having the awareness to be able to recognize it, right? So I appreciate everybody being here. Always, always, always set the notifications so that you know when I'm coming on live, because I would love to do everything I can to support you. And I'm on a mission to create as many potentializers as possible. I got some big, audacious, tenacious, outrageous goals for this year that I want to bring as many people with me as possible. The last 2 years have just been the most epic years of my life. Epic meaning like painful, growing, enlightening, freedom, like creative, like lots of amazing things have happened these last couple of years. And it's all been part of the preparational process to get me where I'm at. So this year I'm really, really dialed and really want to create some amazing things for people and create as many potentializers as possible. So if you haven't joined the group, the potentialzonegroup.com, get over there, check it out. You'll be glad that you did. It's growing really, really, really quick. And eventually I'm going to quit doing these public like I am and just do them exclusively within my group. So please join us over there. You'll be glad you did. It's a great community, awesome people. And be sure always, if there's something that came up that you would like to ask me a question, whatever, please comment in the comments below. And me or someone on my team will be sure to address it and make sure that you get your questions answered. So I appreciate each and every one of you be here. I love you. I appreciate you. If somebody hasn't told you that day, allow me to be the first one to say you're amazing and I appreciate you. And I thank you so much, my friends, for spending your time with me, because your time is valuable. And it means a lot to me that you decided to spend it with me this evening. So with much love, have a great evening. And as always, live like your life depends on it, my friend, because it does, and you deserve the best. Be blessed and stay tuned for the next training that I believe I'll be doing one tomorrow night. I have to check with my team, but I believe I'm doing one tomorrow night. So everybody, much love. Talk soon.